Say same for you. You only known for getting your wife getting fucked by other niggas by BBC.
What started as podcast trash talk quickly crossed a line.
And I'm not going to elbow you in the face or give you a Larry Wheels style slap. I'm just going to politely ask you to exit the podcast.
It's just podcast.
After repeated comments about his wife, Adam22 immediately cut the podcast short and kicked Deen the Great out, but the confrontation didn't end there. New footage showing what happened next in the parking lot is now going viral, revealing just how close things came to turning physical. Let's dig into the details. The clash. There's a very specific kind of chaos that only the internet can produce. The kind where a 25-year-old from Tampa, Florida walks into someone else's studio, sits down across from the host, and within the first 2 minutes of filming, manages to say every single thing that host has spent years trying to live down, and then doubles down, and then gets kicked out, and then goes live from his car to explain why he was actually right. That is what happened on or around February 25th, 2026, when Deen the Great, whose real name is Nuruddin Shahid Shabazz, showed up to record a live episode of No Jumper, the hip-hop podcast empire run by Adam22, and turned what should have been a routine streamer interview into one of the most clipped confrontations of early 2026. But before we get to the fireworks, before we get to the ejection line and the parking lot and the alleged roll-in 60s and the $5,000 appearance fee that may or may not have ever been paid, you need to understand who Deen the Great actually is, because the incident does not make nearly as much sense without the full picture. Deen was born on October 5th, 2000 in Tampa, Florida, and launched his YouTube channel on November 27th, 2013. He started with Q&As, comedy skits, and boxing clips, filming himself fighting friends, then 2 friends at once, then 3, escalating the challenge every time a comment told him he couldn't. A video of him fighting 3 opponents simultaneously ended up on SportsCenter and ESPN. Then he fought a cop in uniform in a planned boxing match at his own community event. He says the department gave the officer a raise for it.
He didn't get fired for it either. He actually said, that shit like the department with it. I think he got a raise from it.
The virality opened a door. A Daz deal followed. Deen moved from street-style sparring clips into sanctioned misfits boxing bouts and turned out to be legitimately technically skilled. Fast hands, slick movement, real conditioning. His record includes a TKO over Evil Hero at the O2 Arena in London, a TKO over Waleed Sharks, multiple title defenses including fighting through 2 shoulder injuries, and a TKO over Dave Fogarty in Dublin that earned him the KO of the night bonus.
How many fights you had total?
7-0, 8 KOs.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
The ring talent is undeniable. The problem has always been everything that happens when Deen is not in a ring. Because in early February 2026, just weeks before the No Jumper incident, Deen had what the internet promptly called his worst 24 hours ever, in which he managed to get slapped by a powerlifter and elbowed by an ex-UFC fighter on back-to-back days, both on camera, both in front of millions of people. The first incident involved powerlifter Larry Wheels at a group kickstream in the Rampage Jackson Circle. Deen allegedly made persistent and aggressive advances toward Wheels' wife Shayla, despite clear signals that it was unwelcome. The situation escalated. Wheels slapped him on camera hard enough to knock him down, and the clip immediately spread everywhere. Deen claimed intoxication was a factor.
So did that hurt when he slapped you?
It did, I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, it didn't feel too good.
Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
The neck brace he showed up to the No Jumper interview wearing, by the way, that was not from the slap. It was from what happened the very next day.
That wasn't from slap though.
Oh, that was from the elbow.
Approximately 24 hours after the Larry Wheels slap, Deen was at a live stream at Quentin Rampage Jackson's house and immediately entered a verbal confrontation with Tiki Gosen, an ex-UFC fighter and longtime member of Rampage's inner circle. Gosen asked if Deen was the guy who had just gotten slapped the day before. Deen responded by telling Gosen he would slap the shit out of him and make him another clip. Gosen threw an elbow. Deen went down. He later issued a partial apology, challenged Gosen to a boxing exhibition, and challenged Dana White to book one of his UFC fighters against him, all within the same breath. His follower count went up. This is the pattern with Deen. He takes the hit, he monetizes the hit, and then he looks for the next one. So when Deen showed up at No Jumper on February 25th, 2026, still wearing that neck brace, still fresh off 2 viral beatdowns, he had telegraphed exactly what he was going to do before he even walked through the door. On the day of the interview, he posted to social media teasing the appearance, writing that he wondered if Adam's wife was going to be be there, with the tongue and eyes emojis, publicly, before a single camera had turned on. The interview started with some reasonable ground. XXX Temptation came up. Deen talked about growing up in Florida, about his boxing record, about the Larry Wheels and Tiki Gosen incidents. And then, within 2 minutes, unprompted, the word cuck came. Out of Deen's mouth aimed directly at Adam22.
Especially after you're a cuck. Cucks don't get,
Adam laughed it off and turned it around. But Deen kept circling back to Lena, to the point where Adam had to ask him directly whether he actually wanted to talk about anything else.
Kind of got a one-track mind with this whole thing, though, huh?
Nah, I mean, I just feel like if she was here, it would be a little better of an interview, but...
Deen apologized, said they could talk about other things, locked in, and then within minutes he was right back on the same subject. The pivot point came when Adam went on offense. He called Deen a struggle streamer who was only known for getting the dog beat out of him. Deen's counter was immediate and surgical.
I say the same for you, though.
No, but I've been doing this way before I ever got my blacked.
Adam acknowledged the Jason Love situation had boosted his profile, but insisted it was voluntary and consensual. Deen kept pressing, and then Adam started explaining exactly what kind of person was even allowed to exist in the same space as his wife. He invoked Johnny Sins, he invoked Jason Love, he invoked himself.
Like the idea that you would be on the level of a Johnny Sins, of a Jason Love, of an Adam22, that you'd be able to even smell the air that my exists in is kind of offensive to me.
Deen's response dissolved that hierarchy immediately, and then he crossed the line that ended the interview. He speculated that Lena was probably getting hit right now.
No, somebody got to be at a certain profile. She probably getting hit right now.
No.
She probably getting smacked
that's
right
the
now.
kind of right there that I'm like, okay, I think...
That sentence, speculating about Lena's activities in real time in Adam's own studio, was the thing Adam could not absorb. Everything before it had been deflectable. This was not. The ejection came immediately. Then, the podcast broke open. Adam told Deen, in so many words, that his fame was built entirely on getting physically dominated on stream.
You are a struggle streamer who's just getting by on the fact that you got your ass whooped a couple times, just trying to get some views off of that.
That was the door Deen had been waiting for. He walked through it without hesitation.
How am I going to respect you when you're somebody who's realistically only known for getting the dog beat out of you?
Exactly the same for you. You only known for getting your wife getting by BBC.
That was the line. After that, the room changed. Adam sat with it for a moment, then said he did not know how much more there was to discuss. He then delivered the ejection in language that was almost polite, which made it land harder.
I'm going to do the gentle thing.
That's cool.
And I'm not going to elbow you in the face or give you a Larry Wheels style slap. I'm just going to politely ask you to exit the podcast.
Deen stood up. On his way out, the exchange ended there, on camera.
You started with me.
Don't get beat up on the way to the car.
All right.
Off camera is where it escalated further. According to Adam22's account shared via the No Jumper X account, he followed Deen outside and challenged him to a one-on-one fight in the parking lot.
Man, this dude Deen the Great, he's a bitch. We went out in the parking lot after we did an interview. I told him I need that fade. He got 10 Rolling 60s members with him.
Deen had shown up to the studio with approximately 10 associates, people Adam later described as members of the Rolling 60s Crips.
He came through with a whole goddamn gang. The shit was looking like colors. They're like, nah, he with us. He can't fight you. He's 140 pounds.
Those associates stepped between them. No punches were thrown. Adam walked away. Deen's version of events, delivered live on Kick within hours, denied all gang ties entirely. He said none of his friends gang bang, and that he was simply a boxer who streams and had pressed Adam about his money. He claimed Adam had called the police and mocked him for it, saying Adam had seen blue and got them confused with being Crips. He also claimed Adam refused to pay the $5,000 appearance fee that had reportedly been negotiated for the episode, and he followed it up with a post that read, "Can't argue with no cuck." As of February 27th, 2026, there was no confirmed police report, no payment resolution, no boxing match announcement, and no resolution of any kind. Two men who had built their entire brands on doing the unfiltered, uncomfortable thing had finally sat across from each other, and the result was exactly as combustible as anyone paying attention should have expected. But the incident with Deen is, in many ways, just the latest chapter. To understand why it hit the way it did, you need to understand the full story of Adam22 and Lena the Plug, and that story goes back a lot further than any podcast. The love story, the open marriage, and the controversy that never stops. There are couples who are famous, and then there are couples whose relationship is itself the content, whose dynamic, whose choices, whose entire way of being together has become so public and so polarizing that the relationship itself is the show. Adam22 and Lena the Plug are the second kind. They are not famous people who happen to be married. They are, at this point, a married couple whose marriage has become one of the most discussed, most mocked, and most genuinely complicated arrangements in all of internet culture. And it all started, like so many things in this world, with a DM. Adam Grandmaison, born November 24, 1983, in Nashua, New Hampshire, built No Jumper from the bones of a dormant 2011 hip-hop Tumblr blog into a full YouTube podcast empire starting in 2015. His path there was anything but conventional. He barely graduated high school, briefly attended community college and the University of Massachusetts Lowell before dropping out, and spent his mid-2000s juggling credit card fraud, online poker, weed sales, and BMX culture simultaneously. In 2006, he launched a BMX blog called The Come Up that became the biggest in the scene through sheer obsessive dedication. By 2012, he had moved to Los Angeles. By 2015, No Jumper was live. By 2016, he had conducted what many people call the most important rapper interview of all time, XXXTentacion, a video that has racked up over 21 million views and cemented No Jumper as the underground hip-hop platform of record. Lena Nersessian, born July 1st, 1991, and raised in California by strict Armenian Christian parents, had a completely different origin story. She was the straight-A student, the psychology degree holder from UC, the girl who studied abroad in Sweden and got into graduate school. She turned down grad school because the internet seemed more honest about what it was offering. She started as an Instagram and Snapchat model around 2015. She launched OnlyFans around 2017, rejected the platform's exclusive deal structure that would have taken 50% of her earnings, ran her own site, and was making 7 figures a month at her peak. They met in 2016 when Lena, then around 50,000 followers, DM'd and emailed Adam for podcast outreach after watching his Dylan Francis interview. Adam suggested she take him on a date. Their first in-person meeting was at a podcast she was guesting on. Within months, they were collaborating on content and beginning to date seriously. The open, exhibitionist nature of their dynamic was there from the very beginning. Their first hookup reportedly involved FaceTiming a mutual friend during the encounter. This was never a secret they were keeping. This was the foundation. Early documentation of their dynamic included a viral 2017 video where Lena framed her best friend, Emily Willis, having sex with Adam, which generated over 22 million views. There were threesomes with women, joint OnlyFans content, and eventually the launch of Plug Talk in 2021, a podcast where they interview adult performers and then film content with them on site. The first guest was Adriana Chechik. The show is still running. Their daughter, Parker Ann Grandmaison, was born on November 14, 2020. Lena continued shooting adult content while pregnant, which became its own controversy. She has said publicly it was one of her highest earning periods, and she had no apologies for it. They married in May 2023 in Florence, Italy, a Tuscan castle destination wedding after nearly 7 years together, with both of them posting about being more in love than ever. The prenup was Lena's idea. They discussed it openly on Vlad TV, with Adam's lawyer asking during the process whether their daughter was biologically his, a standard but awkward question in these proceedings. Adam has since praised prenups broadly, calling people who get married without one foolish. Lena has publicly stated that she is the higher and more consistent earner in the relationship, with Adam's no. Jumper business facing serious financial strain. The prenup protects both their separate income streams and businesses.
Yeah, I think we're both very logical people. We love each other, but we know that there's so many marriages that end horribly. The funny thing about the prenup, though, was that his lawyer was like, "Are you sure that's your kid?" And that's like the internet comments come to life.
Lena's interviews about the open dynamic, and specifically about her experiences with other men, have been some of the most clipped and most discussed content she and Adam have ever produced. In Vlad TV appearances, she explained that novelty and variety after 7+ years with one partner was genuinely appealing to her, not as a rejection of Adam, but as an extension of who she is. In one clip, she said, "I think it'd be fun and hot if we did stuff with other guys, but I just don't care enough," framing it as something she enjoys occasionally rather than something she needs constantly. She has repeatedly differentiated between the consensual variety that defines their relationship and the emotional infidelity she says she would not tolerate. A secret side relationship, she has said, would be the actual betrayal. The on-camera stuff is business and fun. Adam's most detailed public statements about how he feels watching Lena with other men came in a series of Vlad TV interviews that became their own viral events. He said directly, "I've seen the video and I thought it was pretty hot. If that makes me a cuck, so be it." He pushed back on the idea that the cuck label was supposed to offend him, arguing that the traditional definition involves deriving pleasure from humiliation, which is not how he characterizes his experience. He characterized it as mutual consent, no emotional attachment, and financial and relational benefit for both of them.
And like her finances, right? Like, wasn't all of her finances wrapped up in him? It's like with Adam, right? In the beginning of our relationship, I knew his favorite thing was threesomes. That's our business now. But like, there were nights where I was like, oh, maybe I don't feel like it right now, but I want to make him happy. So I'm like, let's have a, And it's like, he's kind to me, he's sweet to me.
But none of that context, not the interviews, not the explanations, not the Vlad TV sessions, prepared the internet for what happened in July 2023, weeks after the Florence wedding, when the first Jason Love scene dropped. Lena filmed her first on-camera scene with another man post-marriage with adult performer Jason Louv, with Adam's explicit consent and advance knowledge. The scene was produced under a major adult studio and featured elements, including Lena biting the bedsheets, that became instantly memed. It became the most financially successful OnlyFans scene in history at the time. Adam was not present on set. He said later he saw the footage afterward rather than watching it live.
Probably.
Was you in the corner? I heard you was in the corner jacking your shit.
No, I was at home.
No?
Yeah.
So you was like watching virtually or?
No, I just saw the footage later.
He celebrated the success. He gifted Lena a neon green Lamborghini reportedly worth around $400,000 as a direct celebration of the scene's earnings. Lena's own statements about the abuso scene, including on Vlad TV, made clear she genuinely enjoyed the experience and had no regrets about it. She discussed in interviews how something new is always going to be a little more interesting and different after years with one partner, while emphasizing that threesomes with Adam together were more fun overall. She expressed appreciation for both Adam's support and the financial windfall, while also gently noting that Jason Love himself was much bigger than expected in ways that became their own extended meme. The internet's reaction to all of this was immediate, sustained, and almost entirely focused on Adam. The cuck memes were wall to wall. The Reddit threads were brutal. The TikTok comments were relentless. People called him Cuck22. People made compilations. People started new debates about his masculinity, his self-respect, and his parenting choices. Every single time a new clip, interview, or reference surfaced. Lena's response to critics of their dynamic has generally been to point at the outcomes, the earnings, the relationship stability, the marriage, the daughter, and argue that the proof is in the results. In a TikTok clip that went viral, she addressed FOMO in the context of their open relationship, saying she actually gets more FOMO imagining Adam having a solo experience with someone else than she does jealousy about his participation in her scenes. She has consistently defended Adam's masculinity in interviews, pushing back against the simp or weak framing and describing their dynamic as genuinely mutual and genuinely hot for both of them. The divorce rumors, a recurring genre in themselves on Reddit and TikTok, threads like, "Am I the only one sensing a divorce coming soon?" appear periodically on R or No Jumper, usually pegged to some new controversy or financial story. As of February 2026, they remain married, collaborative, and publicly affectionate. The prenup is in place. The content continues. The relationship, by every available metric, is intact. What is less intact, as we're about to get into, is everything else around them. The Jason saga, Adam's other battles, and the slow collapse of No Jumper. If you have been paying attention, you already know that Adam22 does not start most of his fights, but he has a very specific tendency to end up in them anyway. And when it comes to anyone who talks sideways about Lena, that tendency accelerates dramatically. Over the course of his career, there has been a consistent pattern. Someone says something Adam cannot absorb. Adam escalates it into a public confrontation, and the outcome is almost always better for the internet than it is for Adam personally. The Deen, the great incident, is the most recent and most viral example of this pattern, but it is far from the only one. The fight that defined his public identity more than any other was not a podcast ejection, it was an actual boxing match. The Jason Love feud, which began the moment Jason started publicly boasting after the 2023 scene with Lena, produced a specific kind of escalation that dragged on for over 2 years. Adam threatened to expose Jason, called him officially blacklisted, and said things in clips like, "I trusted you to pork my wife, and it seems like that cloud is getting to your head. Jason kept trolling, wearing shirts with screenshots from the scene, posting comments about his performance, making size comparisons on podcasts and in interviews. Despite the blacklist, a second scene between Jason and Lena was filmed around 2025 and released. Driven, Lena explained, by audience demand.
Kind of like, you know, you let, and you got even more popularity out of it. You dig what I'm saying? So you can say, hey, all publicity, good publicity.
Adam had publicly positioned the boxing match as the moment he would silence all of it permanently. The fight took place on January 23, 2026, promoted by Aiden Ross's Brand Risk Promotions in Miami. The pre-fight promotion was its own disaster. Lena appeared at the press conference and made comments about Jason being very large in many ways, visibly annoying Adam on camera, and joked about who she would sleep with on fight night. She wore a promotional outfit featuring the bedsheet-biting screenshot from the original scene. Adam, for his part, had reportedly only been training for about 2 weeks before the fight. The fight lasted 73 seconds. Jason Love landed early punches. Adam was dropped twice without landing a single meaningful shot, and the referee stopped it via TKO. Then came the ring interview. When Lena was asked whether Jason was better in bed or better at boxing, she replied without hesitation, he was better in bed. She followed it up immediately with praise for Adam, saying she was very proud of him, that he worked hard, that he was still a winner because he had her. The internet decided that addendum made it worse, not better. Post-fight, Jason posted a romantic video with references to Lena, captioned, "We went 2 rounds," with a boxing emoji. Adam and Lena responded by posting a clip of themselves kissing a life-size Jason Love cardboard cutout in bed, with Adam captioning it, "So glad things are back to normal." Some people found this funny and self-aware. A lot of people found it deeply sad. Most people found it both. Media coverage was extensive and brutal. Outlets like Bloody Elbow, Sport Bible, LAD Bible, and Hot New Hip Hop called it one of the most humiliating performances in crossover boxing history. The consensus framing was not Adam fought for his wife's honor. It was Adam got knocked out in 73 seconds and then his wife said the other guy was better in bed. The internet had a field day and showed no signs of stopping. The Jason Love situation is the most prominent, but Adam has a full history of confrontations over disrespect toward Lena. In July 2023, a figure named Famous Richard made crude comments about Lena that led to a heated verbal confrontation on the podcast that came close to turning physical before stopping short. Multiple guests over the years have found themselves ejected or publicly called out for similar transgressions. The Deen. The Great Incident is the latest and loudest entry in this recurring story, but the pattern itself is well established. Beyond the Lena-related confrontations, Adam's controversy history extends in other directions too. In 2018, the Russ feud produced claims from Adam that Russ had sent associates to sucker punch him while he was getting his nails done, a confrontation that stayed verbal and online but generated significant coverage. No Jumper itself has been described as the Jerry Springer of YouTube for the frequency with which interviews turn into altercations. In December 2024, a viral fight outside the No Jumper Burbank headquarters involved rapper Loose Cannon and manager Whack 100, allegedly assaulting a man named Jeremel Reed, who suffered a concussion, broken nose, and bruises, and subsequently sued Adam's organization. Former employees have filed sexual harassment lawsuits against the company, with at least one settled out of court in 2025. And then there is the financial situation, which is, by any honest accounting, the most significant story surrounding No Jumper heading into 2026. In April 2025, Adam posted a video publicly announcing that No Jumper was going broke, reporting losses of approximately $2 million a month at the worst point. The causes were multiple and layered. A 7-month Instagram suspension had tanked their promotional reach at a critical moment, since Instagram clips and reels were the primary engine of their traffic. Lawsuits from former employees drained significant legal resources. The broader hip-hop podcast landscape had shifted, with more competition and fewer eyeballs per show. And the pandemic-era expansion, the large studio mortgage, the Melrose Avenue store, the expanded staffing had created fixed costs that the declining revenue could no longer sustain. The immediate consequences: approximately 15 staff members laid off, the Melrose store closed, and the studio building put up for sale. Adam announced plans to relocate to a smaller, cheaper space and operate with a leaner team. He framed it as a recalibration rather than a collapse, saying that once the building sold, they would be in a solid position. A separate controversy around a Solana-based crypto meme coin associated with No Jumper saw the market cap pump to $4 million before collapsing to around 100,000, with CoffeeZilla and others alleging insider dumping and calling it a pump and dump. YouTube essays with titles like "The Satisfying Downfall of Adam22 and No Jumper" accumulated hundreds of thousands of views. Reddit threads on our YouTube drama dissected the decline in extensive detail. The public narrative had shifted decisively from empire to cautionary tale. And yet, as of February 2026, No Jumper is still going. Episodes still drop. The YouTube channel posts daily. Adam is still booking guests, still generating controversy, still producing the kind of chaotic television that built him in the first place. The Deen. The great incident, whatever its other qualities, generated exactly the kind of engagement that keeps a struggling brand in the conversation. Adam and Lena remain married, collaborative, and publicly committed to their dynamic. The prenup is in place. The content continues. Lena's earnings from OnlyFans remain the more stable financial pillar of the household at this point.
And we're married. So,
That's the thing, though. You married, though, bruh.
Yeah.
Like, you don't feel like less of a man?
No, it made me feel like a big Billy.
Yeah.
That quote, delivered in the No Jumper studio on the same day Adam would eventually eject Deen, captures something essential about how Adam sees himself. Not as someone who has been humiliated by his circumstances, but as someone who has chosen them deliberately, who has leaned into the discomfort, who has turned the memes into money and the mockery into material. Whether that framing holds up under scrutiny is a question the internet has been debating for 3 years and does not appear to be done with yet. If this caught your interest, don't miss out on the related videos in the suggested cards.